Welcome to the Amazing Mom webinar hosted by Alpha Consulting KE. My name is Moraya Mwangi. Greetings from Nairobi, Kenya. And thank you again for connecting with me on your trauma healing journey as a mother in waiting, a mother has been, a mother experiencing an empty nest, and also just an aspiring mom. I honor you for your time and for your engagement with me concerning healing trauma, especially for women. So a brief intro about myself for those who are meeting me for the very first time is I am a Kenyan, born and raised here, and I have experienced the joy of the study of trauma, its effects, and how people all over the world just try to move on under a very, very heavy rock. And other people are carrying a very, very heavy burden, yet they are suited up, they are flying planes, they are driving trucks, they are riding in their car to work, they are pushing out a baby. And this whole time there is a very big burden that is just looming around them, and they are seemingly helpless. And my desire is to be able to help you and eventually your child recover from any trauma that you have experienced, in either being the first-hand person who experienced the trauma or being in a trauma situation as a secondary part of that trauma experience. So welcome again. I hope you have your pen and paper. I'd like you to just enjoy being with me during this time. As a child, I experienced 3 traumas, and the main trauma that stayed with me for 30 years was a terrible car crash where I was 9 by then, and when it happened, I didn't know the impact that it had had on me until later on as an adult, and especially during the COVID period, because I guess everyone's hypervigilance was very high at that time. And I would want to encourage you that whether your trauma is new, recent, old, unresolved, hidden, you don't know what it is, but you know something is there, I'd like to let you know that you can still begin your trauma healing journey. And because it's a life journey, then you have to go at your pace, the pace of your body, the pace of your mind, the pace of your being, and the pace of your experiences. So this is a very, very authentic journey, and so there would be no comparison, just celebration as you go ahead onto your trauma healing journey. So a small recap of what we did last week was we talked about the start point of trauma healing, and we said that in the past 5 or 6 days we were supposed to relax, and this means that we were supposed to be less strict with ourselves, and also not to be so in control of what we were experiencing, just to let ourselves feel, and also to let ourselves say what we really mean. I know that was a tough one, and I hope that you managed through it. The next task that we had for the past week was to remember, and we agreed that remembering is simply bringing back the parts, the broken fragments of our experiences that we have been through, and being able to create something new. And after remembering, we agreed that we would restore, and that is where we are picking up from today. And after you have known where you are tied up, you know where you are in knots, and you are not able to let go or fully experience your life, I hope that in the past 5 days you have identified at least 2 areas, and that you are able to pick up the broken fragments of that experience for you. And finally, that after you began restoring, today is all about recreation. So if you have pen and paper and you'd like to label this experience for you, the title there would be Recreate. And to start us off, maybe would be just a little bit about trauma. And for those who are new to this experience and what to expect, it's not a one-off, it's a journey. And as you know, for a journey, you have to prepare, you have to pack up, you have to allow yourself time to travel that journey, and also to encounter the journey as you get to your destination. So I hope that in your notebook there, you're able to draw you at one point and then just leave a lot of space and just write destination. So let that space indicate how soon you personally would like to get to your destination. I said a lot of space because I'd like you to keep markers or indicators during this coming week of when you are able to make that personal progress for yourself. I'll give you a few seconds for that. All right. As we recreate today, I would like us to write down these words as we did last time. And the words are renovate, reawaken, resuscitate, reaffirm, repair, and review. And these words will be important on your recreation journey because you have already lived your life to a certain point. You have already lived through that trauma experience to this point in time for your life. And so as we think of those words, circle a word that you feel you're ready to do. Whether it's renovate, reawaken, resuscitate, reaffirm, repair, or review. Circle one word that you feel, I can do this coming week. And after doing that, I'd like to ask us some self-check questions. And these questions are very simple yet very profound for us individually, because our trauma hides in our lives in very subtle ways. And one of the ways trauma hid in my life was that I was very hypervigilant. I was very keen on security. I was keen on, are the doors locked? I remember I'd leave my bed after having slept for about an hour and say, oh my God, I hope they close the doors. And I'd go and check if the doors were closed, and I would say, okay, great. And that for me came from a trauma I had experienced as a child. And that trauma had triggered me to feel that I couldn't trust someone else with my safety or my security. And I don't know what your trauma looks like for you, but today I'd like us to just do this self-check again as we did last time. Do you experience sleep problems? Is your sleeping pattern unpredictable? Do you sleep through the night? Are most of your nights filled with nightmares? Do you feel guilty when you self-love or self-care? Do you feel that you're spending too much time, money on yourself when you do something for yourself? Do you feel guarded? Do you always end a conversation and say, I wish I said this. Why did I say that? I should have said it like this. Do you feel guarded? Might you be self-medicating? You have a pain that just won't go, and you are comfortable to get over-the-counter medication and say, this is for that thing I always have. If that's you, then just note it down. Our last self-check question is, do you have an exaggerated, subtle response? And what that would look like is Should anything fall down, how do you respond? Should a door bang? How do you respond? Should you hear a loud noise outside? What's your response? Do you sit and wait for what's coming? Do you yell? Do you hide? All right, do you get thrown off? And as you go through that self-check, even later on, be sure to find the video on YouTube. I'd like us to know that sometimes the trauma that we go through leaves us with loose ends. And I would like us to refer to that as unfinished business. I remember the reason I kept, or that trauma hid within me, the safety trauma, is that I thought as a child that the person who should have locked the door, because what had happened was there was a break-in into our home, and what happened outside was that there were dogs as well. So first I was just trying to come to terms with how strangers would come into our home, and then how there would be dogs barking outside, and they were not our dogs, all right? And what that did for me, or what it meant for me, what came out of that for me was I couldn't trust. It was just that simple. So I'd enter the car and it would be locked, and I'd still check, especially during COVID. And I would check and I would keep telling the driver, please lock the door. And it was awkward, I guess, for anyone who's watching me. It might have been awkward. And then after the car crash, what happened was anytime I'm riding with someone who immediately accelerated unexpectedly, I would scream. I would say, oh my goodness, oh my God, please stop. If I was in the hands of a careless driver who didn't care, I would literally yell and say, please stop the car, I am ready to get out now. And I can only imagine how that looked and sounded to them. But that is where I was at that time. And when I was healing, because COVID time did a lot of good for me, when I took the time to heal myself, I realized that those trauma experiences had put something in me, pains in my body that I didn't know. They had become so normal for me. So I'd go to the counter and say, oh yes, please give me this for 3 days. And I would feel good, and it would last me for 5 days. And then on the 7th day, I'd go back and get more. And I totally made peace with myself. I said, I am not gonna go into my 40s. I'm not gonna live my 40 to 50 life bracket as a victim. I wanted to enjoy my life. I wanted to enjoy my motherhood journey, and I wanted to celebrate myself, who I was, who I had been, and who I was becoming. So I hope that my stories do resonate with you one way or another. And as you look at unfinished business in trauma, or from trauma experiences, is that one of your unfinished business would be that the person, you see, the person linked to your trauma is not available to you. You can't walk up to them or drive to their location and say, hey, you caused me trauma. You are a part of my trauma, and I'd like us to talk about it. Maybe they are far away, maybe you don't know where they are at, or maybe they've passed on. And that is one of the things that could be leaving you having to deal with a lot of unfinished business. Another thing that would be manifesting to you as unfinished business is emotional wounds. And how do you know someone has a wound? If I have a wound right here and it's hidden by my hair, no one knows that I have it until maybe you hug me and I go like, oh, please avoid that part, it has a wound. Or if I don't want you to know there's a wound, I'll let you hug me and then I'll twitch a bit because the sting is still there. So if you've been going through your life and you feel that experiences, people cause you to feel some sting, maybe you should look deeper and find out what's happening there. Sometimes when we've been through trauma, we are left with physical scars. And those are scars that we carry on because they are on our bodies, and we live with them. They might have healed, they might have, reduced in their in their level of noticeability, but they're still there, and you can see them. And have you made peace with those scars? Finally, I'd like us to consider unresolved grief. I'll never forget, I lost a brother when I was about 28, and he had a very, very troublesome academic experience at some point in his life. And as his sister, I did not know what to do at that time. I was a child as well, I guess, and I was just wondering, why is he behaving that way? And so one day I'm at home processing my life, and I was in a very, very toxic relationship, and I imagined if my brother was alive, what I would have been doing with him to cope, to get support, and I realized he wasn't there. And at that moment I felt broken, very broken. And I remember I was in the shower and I suddenly let out a very big wail. And I stopped showering and I sat in that bathroom and just cried for him. And I mourned for his academic experience because I felt maybe I didn't do enough, or maybe he didn't get enough support. I don't know. I just wailed for his loss and my absence in his academic challenge. And so sometimes unresolved grief can show up at the weirdest place. You were at a conference and you saw someone who triggered you because they reminded you of a teacher who did not like you and gave you problems in learning. It reminds you of a bully. It reminds you of a sibling who you don't see eye to eye. It reminds you of a parent, a relative, a colleague who molested you, someone who you trusted and they broke your trust, and you find yourself giving way to an overwhelming emotion that you might not know how to process at that time. And those are the subtle signs that tell you there's some work to be done. I'll give us a moment to just write down in our notebooks unfinished business, and to remind you that if the person is not there, you are there. Do your part of that healing. If you have an emotional wound, lean on Rumi's words. I remember they really brought life to me in a very dark season of my life when they said that the wound is where the light comes in. I hope that you will allow the light to come in for you as you go through this session with me. If you have a physical scar, I hope that even after this session, you will be able to sit and touch that scar and forgive your body, forgive your mind, forgive your heart, and ask them to forgive you as well. Why would I ask my body for forgiveness? Because it's the body that carries the scar. Why would I ask my heart for forgiveness? Because it pushed through the pain of taking that scar and nursing it and healing it and watching you recover from it physically. Why would I need to forgive my mind? Because it went through a trauma, just taking that scar as well. And finally, I'd like you to forgive yourself for how you have related with that physical scar. If you didn't like it, if you are not able to assign meaning to it, and so it has made you not love your body in one way or another, ask your body for forgiveness, and as you forgive yourself as well, and try and touch that scar with love so that it will not be a trigger anymore or with time. And finally, that unresolved grief. Whatever you need to grieve for, whoever you need to grieve for, whatever you need to grieve over, I hope that you do make some time for it. I'll give you a few seconds. In our last session, we also talked about energy, and we said that energy is about you, your presence, the capacity in which you show up for yourself. And I hope that you are able to do that, even as we go through the final part of this session. I hope that you will be able to find a new place, a new position in life regarding that trauma that you have experienced. Remember, if you're experiencing an energy block, talk to your mind. Sit down with your mind and talk about that energy block. And if you desire to have an open energy channel, talk to your uterus as a woman. Just hold your belly and just speak to yourself, because that's where you carry life. So that's a very divine place in the body of a woman. And if you do not have a uterus, maybe by operation or for medical reasons, I just want you to connect with it, because the lack of it doesn't deny the existence of it. And as we move on into the session, I'd like us to highly consider, would you fly in a plane that was on autopilot? Would you get into a plane that you knew is flying on autopilot? Just think about it. Would you trust yourself to fly a plane based on your voice command? So you enter into the plane and you say, you give it instructions. Ready, set, go. You don't have to do anything. You just need to speak and it responds. Would you? There are very different answers for that question. Initially, I thought that it would be a yes or no. But our minds are very clever. And some of the ways you know how extreme your trauma is if you begin reasoning. If you begin recreating other scenarios from that given scenario. Because you're trying to create a scenario that suits you. You're creating an option that suits you. And so if you are to fly in that autopiloted plane, imagine not knowing where it's going, how high, how fast, how slow. It's just you're in it and it's zooming around. Imagine that feeling. Then you can imagine the plane that is taking your voice command. So if you miss a syllable in the voice command, the plane just misinterprets the meaning of the word. How would that plane respond if you are in turbulence? If you are up in the clouds and there was thunder and you shriek, you cringe and you shout and you yell. Imagine being in that plane. What would that plane do? And how safe would you be in that plane? I was very surprised, I think a few years ago, to realize that a plane uses its most fuel consumption when it's heated up, started and on the runway. I always thought it takes so much fuel in the air. No. If you didn't know, like me, the plane in the air is using minimal. It used everything it needed at takeoff. And sometimes when we are healing trauma, it feels like it's taking every little thing from us. And this is because our minds, our bodies don't want to go back there. They don't know how to process because you're stuck in that situation. And with all this unfinished business, you're hoping someone else could do it for you, but sadly only you can help yourself to recover. And so as we go through the final part of this session, I'd like to encourage you that you have done very well even to listen to this far, that you didn't get triggered. One of my most recent triggers was a book I think that Oprah wrote with someone, and they were talking about it on YouTube, and I sat and I was ready to watch it. And the first time I saw that the title of the book, which is What Happened to You, I thought, oh, that's Oprah. I'm sure it's all about some weird stuff. And I thought, oh yeah, I'll make time for that. So my children were not here and I was alone. And immediately I pressed play on my remote. The room started spinning. Oprah started talking. She was being interviewed. And the room became smaller and I had my first ever panic attack because my mind, my body knew what had happened to me, and we were not ready to confront it. We were not ready to meet it. We were not ready to talk about it. We were not ready to face it. And I had to again call my therapist and my best friend and whoever picked, and I told them this is what was happening, and so I got the help that I needed. And so sometimes trauma can do that to you. You're in your comfort place, everything is very familiar to you, but you see something and it just throws you off. It feels like the experience all over again, and you just don't know what to do with it. And so, as I'm sure many are asking, what next? What do I do after everything that I've done last week? I have relaxed, I have remembered, and I have restored. I have organized my trauma the best way I know it. I have probably chronologically labeled it as well. And as we end this session today, later on, I hope that you will be able to assign meaningful meaning to your trauma. That you'll see that it wasn't meant to break you. It wasn't meant to kill you. It wasn't meant to throw you off. It was meant to come and cause you to be another version of yourself because of that experience, so that you could be used to bring light, to bring healing, to bring joy, to walk with others and just let them know they're not alone. And so I'd like us to now lean on towards the ending of that process that we began last week. And the first word here is review. Remember to hyphenate the word re and then view. And a view is whatever you see with your eyes. And they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, because everyone's viewpoint is different. You could tell me about your trauma and I'll think of it in Z notion, and you'll tell someone else and they'll think of it in K motion, and someone else will be like, that's definitely a C. And so hence the need for no judgment here. So as you think about what next for you, I'd like you to review. Look at that trauma experience with the new knowledge that you're getting here, and ask yourself, what are my limiting beliefs about my trauma experience? What coat of honor have I been wearing about my trauma experience and it's still not serving me? Or I can't try out that job because this happened to me. I can't get married because this happened to me. All my relationships break down because this happened to me. Those are some of the coats of honor that we gladly wear, yet they are limiting us and shutting us out from the fullness of life. I'd also like us to ask ourselves, what are the self-sabotage patterns in our lives And self-sabotage is endless when you've been through trauma. You meet someone, you say hi to them, and one thing just makes you say, I do not want to be with this person. A hair on their chin, a grin in their eye, and you say, no, that reminds me of that, so this is probably gonna happen to me all over again. And the cycle of self-sabotage continues. You get a very big opportunity unexpectedly, and you say, my goodness, this has come to destroy me. I had not prepared for it. If I had prepared for it, I would take it. But it has just come so that it can destroy me and humiliate me and embarrass me to the world. I will not take it. That is self-sabotage. So I'd like us to think and ponder, what are these coats of honor that we want to wear, yet they're limiting us? What are these self-sabotage thought patterns that we are so comfortable with to justify our lack of full living? Because those might be a seed related to a trauma experience. Next, I would like us to talk about activation. Activating, and this is the opposite of the limiting beliefs. What this would look like is to activate empowering beliefs. It would look like creating new power loops for yourself. Where you've been self-sabotaging, you stand up with your head tall and your shoulders out, and you say, this is me, and I am creating new power loops for me because I must thrive. I must enjoy my life. And so I will take care of myself. I will love myself some more. I will invest in myself some more. And as you go through that activation, I want you to imagine being in a stuck lift. And you try and call, but the lights have gone out and your lift is stuck. And so suddenly when the lights do come on, your lift is still stuck. And so there's someone shouting at you all the way from ground floor and telling you, hello? Hello, can you hear me? And you think, yeah, I can hear you. I need to get out of this lift. And they tell you you need to reach to a button that's maybe 5 inches higher than you. You will do anything to reach that button. You will be very creative to reach that button if it means that you're let out of that stuck lift. And that's what trauma healing might feel like for us. It might feel like this is stretching me. This is causing me to want to recreate who I am. And it feels like so much work. And I want you to know that it's not happening to you alone. It's happening to all of us as we seek to live that full and intentional life, living our best pro version of our lives. Third, I'd like us to consider the word routine. And the way I look at it is a routine gives me a route to follow into where I want to be, into the state that I want to be. And I hope that as we go through this session, you will be able to perform some routine tasks in the next week that will grant you the ability to self-command and recharge. So I'd like us to imagine a home where there are no rules. The only rule is you have to go to school. You need to go to college if you have a college attending child. And you have to go to work. Everything else is open. Do it when you can. And you can imagine, naturally, if you're a stickler for order, or for any home to function, actually, there needs to be some form of guide, like what time do we eat? What time should the baby sleep? What time should you rest? When are you expected back home? And stuff like that. And so you can imagine that home without a root in. So you walk in and you realize dishes from 2 days ago are lying over there. The house doesn't look kempt because no one wants to do it and no one has been assigned that duty. And other little things. Maybe some curtains are not drawn because no one is allocated that duty. Then imagine what it would take for that household to create some order. The first thing they'll experience is resistance. Do I have to do it? Do I have to do it now? Why can't someone else do it? Can we rotate these tasks? And as human beings, it's natural. It's very, very natural to self-protect. And after going through a trauma and serving in the capacity of a mom, I would like to encourage us to already desire and work on intentionally creating routines so that we can get a break when we need it. We can sleep in when we need it. We can enjoy our showers when we need to. We can go on a short holiday for ourselves and know that everything is fine. And so I'd like us to talk about self-command. And it's as simple as that, the ability to command yourself, the ability to command your environment, the ability to command your experience, meaning that your voice gets heard. Remember last week, we talked about when was the last time you said what you really mean. And sometimes as moms, we find ourselves in precarious situations where you think, I want to say it. But you say, no, I'm supposed to express love. And if I say exactly what I want to or what I mean, I will be received as not expressing or sharing love with this person, whether it's at work, at home, in your business. And so this coming week, work on self-command, whereby if you're able to be in charge of yourself, you'll notice how easy it will be to recreate your environment for success, recreate your home for proper function, and the joy that it will bring everyone eventually. And then I'd like us to talk about recharging. No one wants to hold a phone that's on 1% battery charge. And as a mom, sometimes and most times, you might find that many mothers are operating at 1% battery charge. You are operating at nothing should go wrong level. If something else goes wrong, this is it. And that can be avoided if you take time to recharge. Everyone will look at the battery charge on their phone and say, my goodness, it's at 10%. I need a charger. Oh, it's at 32%. Oh, it's gonna be drained just briefly. If I take this Zoom meeting, the battery's gonna be drained. But as a mom, I'd like you to imagine yourself as that phone that needs to be recharged when it's due. And no one feels bad about plugging a phone into a charger. There's so much joy. Oh, like, great, they can reach me now. I can call my XYZ shortly. We'll just give it some 10 minutes of charge. But as a mom, no one will put us on charge because we are nurturers. And if you've been through love trauma and you find a partner who puts you on recharge, you will not believe it. You will say, my goodness, they're putting me on recharge because they want to do XYZ, ABC. That's also trauma experiences hidden somewhere. So as you go through the next week, I want you to take time, and so will I, to say, I am on recharge. I am not available for a call. I will read that text message later. I will join that meeting. I will get the recap because I am on recharge. And you will see how your body will rejoice at that experience, whether the recharge is a power nap, whether the recharge is a dress down, whether the recharge is whatever it will mean to you, a bowl of ice cream, a bar of chocolate, whatever it will mean to you and for you. I'd like you to consider that you make sure you have set the self-command buttons working in your home and in your life as well. And then now you can recharge and say, I deserve this. This is okay to have because it's okay to have it. After that, you'll be energized. And what will you do with that energy? As a mom, when we have energy, the first thing we think to do is give and give and give. Love and love and love. Care and care some more. But once you're energized, I'd like you this coming week to energize yourself for you. Energize yourself by taking a walk, get a journal and love on yourself. Remind yourself of the great things that you've managed to do in your short, long, and midlife experience. Take time and be intentional about remembering your great childhood memories, even the secret ones. My secret one as a child was when it would rain and the rain was just dying down, I'd sneak out of the house and just let myself be rained on as I walked around the block. And it felt so good, just that no one was out and no one knew where I was, and I'd just come in and quickly rush to my room and get changed. And that was my little secret during the rainy season. So those are some of the things that light me up as Moriah, as a child. And I say, wow, I'd pay anything for that moment. So this coming week, energize yourself for you. For you. Buy a love diary for you. Love yourself through writing. Love yourself through images. Get old magazines and cut out things that stand out for you. You know, things that you look out and you say, I want this. I want to remember that I have this somewhere in my house. You know, cut out those pictures that say, yes, I attach myself to this. And just enjoy a new energized version of you. And everyone will be like, what happened to her? Well, you're healing those things that have been buried somewhere within you and you didn't know what to do with them. And sometimes there's no need of going through the trauma experience again and saying they did this to me, and you just try and replace that as you familiarize yourself and you begin to make peace with that experience. All this self-care and self-love makes you at ease as you begin to go through that journey. Finally, I'd like us to work on refining. This will be for day 6 and 7 next week. And when something is fine, it's fine. But when it's refined, it's classy. And that's what I pray for each one of us. And that's what I hope for each one of us. That people will look at our refined versions and say, tell me what's happening to you, because it's really working. Tell me what you're going through, because you're definitely different. And I can tell you that it works. I remember when I was coming out of my trauma, and it's a real coming out. I so loved myself. I went and first of all, I recreated my home to suit me. Yep, to suit me. So I have things on the wall that matter to me. In my room, I have pictures that matter to me. I have motivation quotes that matter to me. And what those do for me is I feel in control. I feel present. I feel alive. I feel like I can see myself, and if I can see myself, that means I'm here, that I am experiencing myself. Life is not happening to me. It's not happening to me. I am enjoying and experiencing this. And so after you refine yourself, you go back to activation and keep pressing that activate button. Keep saying, I am good for activation. Let the doors of the lift open because I am ready to come out. I am tired of being stuck. I am ready to manifest. I am ready to wear the dresses that I like. I am ready to buy the suits that I deserve to wear. I want to be able to go on a trip all by myself. I am ready to love my children differently. I am ready to let my partner know deeper things about me because I'm not scared they'll leave me. I have dealt with it, so it doesn't have any negative power over me. It's made me stronger. It's made me more in control of myself. And I don't know where you're at this point, but I would just like us to take a few moments, and I know that was quite a chunk of it. I'd like us to take a few moments and imagine that autopilot plane. I would never, because I have been in one, and that plane was in my mind, and boy did it keep crashing. Boy did it keep raising alarms for other planes that were not on autopilot. You know, when you've been through trauma and you're meeting people who might not be experiencing or living that moment of trauma, they're healed. You just keep crashing into them. You keep crashing into walls, and anyone's like, avoid that one. And also that plane that's on voice command. Every time you miss a syllable, anytime you're in turbulence and you wail, what command is that for your plane? So it's better to just say, you know what? I don't have to fly the plane. Let God fly the plane. I'll sit. I'll board the plane. I'll enjoy the plane ride. And I'll have a blast while at it. And those are some of the ways of relaxing and not always seeking to be in control. Because when you are in control and you have unresolved trauma, it doesn't come across as control. It comes across as fear, bullying, what could I say? Negative authority. Because there's a pinch to that tone that comes with that experience for those who are around you. And when you are faced with that voice command experience, only you can say, you know what? I don't trust my voice enough with this plane. I trust myself, but my voice, no. And so I'd like the manual to fly this plane. And as a believer, your manual would be the Word of God, and the Word of God that applies to your religion, as it would be the Word or the written things that you subscribe to. Those would be the manual that you would use for your life, just to thrive, just to get there. Remember that gap that we drew in our books. This is where I'm at, and this is where I'm going, and how soon I want to get there. And I hope that you are able to make that decision. You're able to say, great, this is what I'm doing this week. It may not be easy. I'm stuck in that elevator, and I have to reach these 5 inches. I have to scale up to press that button just so that the doors of this elevator can open. I hope that it makes sense to you. Thank you for those who have asked how to connect with me. You can find me on Facebook, Alpha Consulting KE, and more contact information is on my bio, and it will also be shared with this video. If you would like to proceed on to a personal session with me regarding trauma healing and trauma recovery for yourself or your child, my contacts are here on this channel, and I'll be very glad to walk you through your breakthrough moments, because as a mom, it takes another strong and willing mom to support you and keep you standing. I would like to be that mom for you. I would like to offer you support as I learn from you and glean from our experiences, so that we can rebuild the parts of us that have been through trauma and help ourselves recover and rebuild again. Thank you so much for taking time to be with me today. And for those who are asking what next, we will cover 2 books in future. I'd like you to begin to find them already: A Return to Love and Your Body Keeps the Score. If you can find them and begin to have a good familiarization with the book, then that will be very valuable to you, as we do that probably at the beginning of March. Thank you again. My pleasure.